It doesn't take much to look around at the world today and to see that there is a shaking that is taking place in the earth. And really you can look around and you can see that it's been taking place for about 2 years, maybe a little longer. We've seen governments, financial markets, and even whole economies being shaken, and some will fall. As I began to look at this and see all that, I began to inquire as to God, what's going on? What are you doing in the earth at this time? What's all this turmoil that's taking place? And over the last several months, I think God has begun to show me some things and give me a little bit of understanding of what God is doing at this time. First, unlike the news media and the prophets of doom, this is not the end of the world. Let's just kind of take a deep breath and realize that God is God and He's going to do what He wants to do. God is moving, and when God moves, the earth trembles. What we're seeing is a result of God moving in the earth today. Secondly, God directed me to Matthew 25. And I want to read this because there's a nugget in here that if we can understand that, we can really begin to see or understand more about all this shaking that's going on. Verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered them unto him his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them another 5 talents. And likewise, he that had received 2, he also gained another 2. But he that received 1 talent went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of these servants cometh and reckoned with them. And so he who had received 5 talents, and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 more. His Lord said to him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful in a few things. I will make thee ruler over many. Enter into the joy of thy Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter into thou the joy of the Lord. Then he came and received 1 talent. Then he which had received 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou wast a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid and went and hid thy talent in the earth. And lo, there is that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knowest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore have put my money into the exchangers, and them at my coming I should have received my own with usury. Take thou for the talent from him, and give it unto him which has 10 talents. Now, as we look at this parable, or this example that Jesus gives, at first it's kind of hard to see any kind of connection as to what is going on in the world other than that there's a financial connection here. But as we look at this a little deeper, there is a relevant truth in here that will help us to see more of what God is doing at this time. Really, the truth of this, that Jesus requires the one to give to the one that had 10. Now, in the worldview, or at least in my view, and I think probably pretty much the worldview, that seems blatantly unfair. Why would you take something from that has just one and give it to one who has much? But since God is totally just, perfectly just, then he is obviously working on a different standard, a different model than what the world view is of finance. The worldview is that money must travel, or wealth must travel, from rich to poor, or in some instances, from poor to rich. That's how we view it. We have great political debate about that. We're having one in this country at this time. Yet in God's economy, rich and poor are irrelevant. Matter of fact, compared to God, Bill Gates, and compared to all the riches and glory of God, Bill Gates is no different than a pauper. We're all poor. So, the relevant truth here is that Jesus called the first two servants good and faithful. The third from which he took, he called wicked. So in God's model, wealth must not flow from rich to poor or poor to rich, but from unrighteous to righteous. We have scripture from this from Proverbs 13:22. The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. We are the just. We are the righteous. Now, it'd be real easy if God could just come and say, okay, you unrighteous, you come take your wealth and you come over here and give it to my righteous. But the fact is, the unrighteous don't listen to God. That's why they are unrighteous. So, God has to do it the hard way. God has to shake the wealth of the unrighteous loose on the righteous. This shaking that's going on is for God to shake the wealth out of the unrighteous earth into his righteous church, to us. And this is not the first time he's ever had to do this. You remember when God delivered the Jews from Egypt. When Moses led them out, it said that they came out with great wealth, great riches, gold, silver, and livestock, whatever was considered at that time wealth. They came out with much wealth. What happened? But this did not happen until after God had shaken both Pharaoh and Egypt to his core. You remember the story of the plagues and all that took place. By the time God was finished with Egypt, they were paying the Jews to leave. You know, they just blessed them.